Hello and welcome to the Think Share. My name's Zach. Here brings what I've been thinking about, sharing about, talking about, listening to, make you the goodest version of yourself. So I'm on day five out here in California. First day, wandered around San Francisco, found a hostel to sleep in. Second day, also in San Francisco, visited my cousin, went down to work with him in Palo Alto. Visited some of the Silicon Valley places, Google, Tesla, Facebook, rode around on a Facebook bike, and then had dinner with my cousin and his friends, and then drove back with him. Next day, and slept in a hotel that night. Next day, feeling a little empty because I just kind of was a little disappointed with the Silicon Valley trip. Nothing like I loved my time with my cousin, and it was a little challenging. Sorry, I just realized I missed an appointment that I made. So yeah, I've been wanting to be an author's coach, and I totally forgot to give a call to someone that I wanted to discuss their book with them. So yeah, so I was a little disappointed with. I realized that just showing up and observing inanimate objects like bridges and towers and buildings, where there's nobody there to greet you or be friend or hang out with you and make observations with, is a little empty. Um, hey Josh, hey Gemma, hey Alex. Um, so I called up my really good friend Brian, who's out here in Truckee, California. He's Sleep Master. Just got me from Maryland. Cool. Um, and since I've been out here, I've been having a blast, and I've been realizing it's so much less about where you are, versus like who you're with. I have not checked my email yet, Gemma. Um, so since I've arrived, I I got a bus to Reno. Not yet. Hey, Livy. Not yesterday, but the day before. Um, got a bus to Reno. Showed up. Dove into a river. So I'm gonna share some interesting things with you all. Some people may make fun of me for this, and I don't care. Um, I've been just trying some new things. So um, Brian is gay, and what I really love about him is he's such a free spirit, um, and he really allows for you to sort of break out of the shell of who you've like shaped yourself to be, and allow you to transcend the sort of norms. Who sent who that? I'm not sure. Encouragement email. I sent you got it. Who sent who that? Sleep Master. I think Gemma's talking about an email she sent to me. Um, so yeah, I've been hanging out with my friend Brian, and mathematics is coming up in September. Any chance you can help me sometime? Yes, Libby, I can do that. Sleep Master sends like yeah. Uh, I I keep getting off track. I hope you guys can excuse me. I'm just gonna not read the comments for a minute or two so I can get out my thoughts here. Um, so showed up to Reno. It turned out to be it was like Pride Day for them, and there had been like a parade and a bunch of events that day, and we caught like the very tail end of it. So we went into a river, um, did some meditations. Really interesting experience I had was when I was visiting my friend Patrick before I got the bus to Reno. One of his roommates was taking Landmark Forum, so I talk a little bit about Landmark Forum here and there. Really influential education course that I took at age 23, and I visited his friend that she knew of who I was, and I had this. I met up with her for I've calculated about 22 minutes, and there's a moment in time where we're standing up straight. I had my backpacks on because I've been walking around with them, and I was headed to a bus for Reno in 20 minutes, and I went to sit down. She's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna stay standing because I've been sitting all day." It's like, "Oh," and I said out loud to her, and I know a lot of people might find this strange. As I said, I just realized I sat down not because I wanted to sit down, but because I felt uncomfortable standing and talking with you. It's like interesting. Say more about that. And I'm not quite sure how to articulate, but so I stood back up and I said, "Well, I guess it's like there's a lot of eye contact, which I wasn't used to, as well as I point out to her sometimes I don't know what to do with my hands when I'm talking like a foot or two away from somebody. Um, your hands and hand motions. Really interesting thing I learned from Vanessa Edwards. Wrote a book called Captivate, and she said that a one of the one of the survival techniques that our species has grown is that if you keep your hands out in front and people can see them, they're less threatened. If you hide your hands behind you, um, it's sort of like you don't know if that person has a weapon, you don't know what they're doing with their hands. And it's a very subconscious experience that we have, but I think they did a study on TED Talks and they said the difference between like 1,000 or 10,000 views on a TED Talk versus a couple 100 million is hand gestures. Like they use 10 times more hand gestures because people feel really safe talking with somebody with hand gestures. So if you guys are watching in the future and notice I use a lot of hand gestures, it's because I'm trying to implement that because it taps into people's subconscious in trusting me. So I said to her name was Amelia, I said, I don't know what to do with my hands. So on a whim, I just said, let's just try this. So I held her hand and we just held hands and then I put mine on top and hers was on bottom. And then we just talked for a couple more minutes. And I don't know how much time actually passed by. Our entire interaction was 22 minutes. And I don't know how long we were holding hands for. But it was just this like, one of the interesting things about Landmark Forum and Landmark Education is I think you grow really comfortable getting uncomfortable, doing strange things that aren't bad in nature. They're just like a little different. So tried that out, and I was just talking with her about my experience, why I'm coming here to San Francisco, the meditation retreat, things that have been going on in my life, and she was sharing about what she was getting out of the course. And by the end of the conversation, I felt so vulnerable. And I think a lot of people don't recognize how valuable it can be to have the experience of being vulnerable. And I think it's hard to find people in your life that as you're talking to them, you really feel like you can share your life experience. And I think the holding hands was, it sort of creates a connection that people aren't used to. And it like almost immediately causes you to feel vulnerable, as well as the content of our conversation. The Landmark Forum, you're really working on your life and considering what it is to be a human being. So between the content of the conversation, holding hands, making an insane amount of eye contact from what I experienced, I just felt like inside it was like, when you're doing something like really on the edge of your comfort zone, but you feel really alive and you're glad you did it at the end. That was the experience I had, and I feel like moments that I have had with those people that I've had experience like that with, like I would describe that almost as love, like being able to love a stranger, love a friend, and I feel like anyone that has a spouse must have had an experience like that with them. So it was a really just strange experience for 20 something minutes, and I've been continuously reflecting on that the past 24 hours. So the reason I went over to that was when I visited Brian in Reno, went into the river, made some what felt like dangerous decisions, but he had done it before, so I trusted him, which is just going to rivers where there's like a little, like a chute of water, and then there's little eddies and stuff. And so we sat off to the side, and I was just talking about this experience with him. And so we sat cross-legged, and we talked about meditation, because he's gone through this meditation retreat, and he said, have you ever tried focusing your eyes on an object for longer than 10 minutes? So we both picked up rocks. I don't have mine over there with me, but we just stared at it for, I don't know how much time actually passed, but I would estimate probably more than 10 minutes. And noticed all the feelings, thoughts, things that were coming up in our brains as we were staring at these rocks, and noticing how our consciousness, like when we're telling ourselves to focus on a rock, our brains want to do everything else besides that. And it's just interesting recognizing that's how our brains sort of work. And then as I was talking with him after we did that, I tried holding his hand as well, and it was again a really strange, vulnerable experience that left me like uncomfortably alive. And so, almost as a challenge to all, and Jim, I know this would definitely be an extra challenge for you. Um, is one, consider finding a good friend that you trust. Try to have a conversation with them while holding hands. Just, it was a really interesting experience. I don't know what you all will get out of it. It could feel extremely uncomfortable. I know that if for people that have general anxiety or any kind of anxiety disorders, I mean, I don't know if it could, I don't know if it could cause like any kind of panic attack or anything. So like, buyer beware. I don't know what it could cause, but I know it can be extremely uncomfortable. Awesome. Glad to hear it, Gemma. I'll look forward to hearing your reflection on it. Another idea is like trying to speak with someone and have direct eye contact with them the whole time, and like that was a really interesting thing. And the other thing is, I guess those two, and I guess the other one is finding something that you're uncomfortable or vulnerable, or you have some you get self-conscious about. No, sorry, eye contact. That maybe, I mean, maybe the touching of hands will open you up to that. But I don't know what that'll do. But maybe that'll be the next challenge, Gemma. So yeah, those are some really interesting experiences. And since then, I've just been like in this really strange, not strange, but just like kind of alive and present experience the past like 48 hours now since then. It's been almost exactly 48 hours since then. Um, and just to give you a little rundown of the other things. So me and Brian, we hung out at the water. Then we went over to, they're having a little music festival. People were doing acro yoga. So acro yoga is like yoga with a partner, and you're like kind of tossing them around on your feet and hands. I invite people to check it out. I did like 2 or 3 poses with Brian. It was really fun, interesting, frightening because you're afraid you're going to drop them, or you're afraid they're going to drop you. It takes trust. Um, then we went out for dinner. We got free tickets to a free comedy festival. Ended up in a drum circle. So a drum circle is literally just a bunch of people that bring their like bongos and drums and bells and sticks, and they're just drumming away. Thank you, Addison. Um, and so we just joined the drum circle. It was like 45 minutes. We were just like drumming away on strangers' drums, and then we ended up dancing a little bit. And then we went to the comedy club, really fun. Met up with his friend Lauren that he does improv with. Called it a night. Next day, started with frisbee golf, and then we went and swam in a local river. And then what we do from there? Then we went to a locals farmers market, got a bunch of free samples and some kombucha. For those that don't know what kombucha is, it's fermented tea, which you could describe it as having good gut health. It's like, as I've called it before, good bugs. It's like it introduces cultures of living things into your stomach that can be good for gut health. I don't know much about the subject, so I don't have much to offer about that, but that's what I know about it so far. Went and got lunch, hung out, and so for those that tuned in yesterday, I did an interview with, I'm forgetting his name, I know his last name is good, Morgan. So Morgan is one of the people running for a position in the town and is already has a position with the town, and it was just really interesting talking with him. Got coffee, and then we went to improv. So I've never done improv before, but Brian's been doing it for like I guess a couple months now or something, and he brought me over and had a lot of fun. And one of the challenges I've been having recently is the challenge of verbal versus nonverbal communication with people. I feel like I'm really good at verbal and straightforward talking, and I have a really hard time interpreting what people are saying, thinking, doing without words. So some of the challenges that we had during the exercise was we had to talk in gibberish. So like one of the exercises was the two people would come up and they would just create a scene out of nothing, and you would be told to speak gibberish, and you just have this nonsensical conversation, mostly using body language and tone of voice, maybe. Um, and I found it really valuable to think about that, and how that could like just doing more exercise like that could really impact the the ability that I have to recognize nonverbal cues. So I invite anyone that is interested in stepping a little bit outside their comfort zone, go do some improv, especially if they have a class about being silent or talking in gibberish. And it really forces you to be present and in the moment, because it's hard to think about like the next thing you're gonna say because there's nothing that you're thinking about. You're just sort of reacting and on the like. There's no mistakes in improv. There's only opportunities, is what the coach said. So I thought it was really fun to do. I tried jumping up to be the first one into everything. I was annoyed with myself. I was like, I hope I'm not like hogging the spotlight or something here. But people were enjoying the energy of it. So yeah, improv was really fun. Came home, spoke with, met the son of yeah, I talked a lot about YouTube with his friend Lauren. Has a son that spends a lot of time on YouTube. We talked about the difference of being a creator versus consumer. That was fun. And then we went and hung out with two of Brian's friends that live in the area, and we were probably there till like midnight, just hanging out, talking about stuff, and it was a really wonderful evening with them. And now I'm here, slept in a little bit. I've been avoiding my video for today and avoiding my journal entry today, so I cleaned the kitchen. I figured since they're letting me sleep on the couch, I figured I would help pay a little bit of the rent by my physical labor. So did that. Talked. Yeah, so that's what it's been like the past 48 hours since I've shared with you some of my experiences of what's been going on. Yeah, it's been a ride, and I think the conclusions I'm coming to are that the relationships that I have in my life are not as vulnerable as I would love them to be. Having that experience with Amelia and holding hands and making eye contact and sharing things that I'm not comfortable with, and having the experience of being vulnerable and feeling uncomfortably alive, and then reflecting on like, holy crap, like I feel crazy good right now about that experience. Talking with Brian, he's like, you realize like you could probably have that experience with everyone in the world. And I realized that one of the really valuable parts of that was she gave me the opportunity to to not judge me and give me the space to share things, or do things that were uncomfortable, like holding hands or making eye contact. So if you have a friend out there that is good at not judging you and being a sounding board and letting you speak your thoughts and not judge you or put their own opinions on you, that's a friend you want to keep around. And when you're doing travel, I'd recommend doing it with a friend. Go with people, because from the movie, what was it? Into the Wild, the guy goes out on a trip and into Alaska, burns his money, burns his social security card, and one of his like dying discoveries is that only true happiness can be shared. So recognize the people in your life that you can share intense feelings of happiness with, and keep them around, and keep scheduling opportunities to do that with them. We're gonna go check out a beautiful spot nearby. We're near Lake Tahoe. I know I have not gotten to any of your comments. I hope I'll just browse through them real quick. Stop pay for items. They said, "Do you ever come on King's question? Order food sandwich or me?" Yeah. I'm not in Reno now. I'm actually in Truckee, California. I was in Reno because that was where the bus went to. It didn't stop in this area. But yeah, I'm in Truckee, California. Verbal communication. Is gibberish even a language? Gibberish is not a language specifically. There are techniques that you can speak gibberish. You can look up on YouTube how to speak gibberish, and it's like you say the phrase igida after every when you come to a new vowel. So if I were to say gibberish, it would be jigida ibera iberigadish. Gibberigidish is how you say gibberish in gibberish. So yeah, I think that wraps it up. I'll do my thank you for staying there with me. I know I haven't been doing what I normally do, which is a video every day, and I've been really trying to just be in the moment and focus on the experience around me rather than yeah, I've just been irresponsible, honestly, for what I've promised you guys, which is daily videos. So let me know if there are impacts on you, if you've been looking forward to them and you've not been seeing them and are disappointed. That's valuable feedback for me. I'm guessing through some personals. Got it, Sleep Master. Yes, I miss you. Got it, Gemma. Sleep Master, feel free to email me or Gemma. I'm not gonna promise to be super fast in responding to them, but I will at least in the next 2 weeks. I'm really trying to soak in everything that is going on around me. But yeah, I'll do my best to check. I can check my email today. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, give it a like. If you dislike this, give it a dislike. If you found some value out of this and you think someone else might enjoy it, share it with them. If you want more, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Stay weird, humans. I know all 4 of you are already subscribed, but have a good day. Love y'all.